Alrighty, so we are here, Finance Committee meeting. So we roll call and establish quorum. We have tonight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 voting members here. The first order of business is we have meeting minutes from the January 3rd meeting.
Correct.
So they're attached. And it was a very short
Yes, it was.
meeting. So I don't think we have any, if anyone has any
Concerns, edits, corrections, we'll do them.
I was not there, so I will abstain from the vote.
Okay.
entertain a motion to approve.
Motion approved.
Second?
All those in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Okay. The item I had next is to discuss the SJC ruling that Lisa Mead spoke about last week at part of the joint meeting about our policy on public comment. And I know that there is a training set for committee leaders and others within the town. It's set for April 13th at 5:30 p.m. about this ruling and about setting up public comment. We've been told that...
Where's that going to be?
That's going to be at 12 Kent Way, the town office's second floor hearing room. So we've been advised that if we are going to have a public comment section of our meetings, our public meetings, under open meeting law, we should set forth a policy. We should adopt a policy that what we need to do is we can regulate the time, place, and manner, but we can't regulate the content of people's speech. But we can, if we have just an open comment period, but if we decide to have, say we are discussing an item on an agenda, we could have a public comment section for a certain agenda item if we wanted to as part of our policy, or we could do that on a case-by-case basis.
And just need to announce that beforehand, right?
Yep. The language that is on the agenda tonight is the one that we have been using for about the last, at least the year, if not longer, more kind of like since COVID, when we were doing Zoom meetings. It was adopted from language there, and it basically said it's oral communications from a member of the public. They may address the Finance Committee for up to 3 minutes, longer with the permission of the chair. Finance Committee will not engage in discussion on topics raised during public comment, but may choose to add the topic to a future agenda. And the agenda segment will be limited to 15 minutes unless this time is extended at the discretion of the chair.
That fits the criteria, if I understand it correctly, under the SJC, so I mean, is there any reason why we would change it?
I think 3 minutes is
I think it's long.
Generous.
generous.
I
And
recommend
the
two.
chair can
You
make
can
it
always
longer.
extend it beyond that.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is we can also, if we adopt this as a policy and find that it's not meeting our needs, we can reevaluate and adopt a new policy at another meeting.
So in the training, will this policy be approved as being consistent with the SJC? Or do you know?
Don't know.
Well, let's bring it along.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see why it wouldn't. If it's checks the boxes.
Right.
As long as you don't try and stifle anybody's content, you're fine.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And for the matter of tonight's meeting, I didn't put a public comment on the agenda because I wasn't sure what the policy was, and if we voted one, then we could then decide to do it as part of new business, but I think we can. Do we want to make a motion to adopt this as our policy and bring it to that meeting for blessing?
I would go
or
the other way around.
go, yep,
I would bring it to the meeting,
yep,
see that it has the blessing, and at our next meeting, adopt it as our first order of business.
I agree with that. Others in favor of that kind of
Yeah,
cart and horse?
sounds fine.
Yeah.
I just wonder about the 3 minutes. It's a long time, and you can discretion go more if you so wanted to. 3 minutes discussion on any topic. I think they could hit all the points in 2.
They start to be repetitive, I think. You're gonna, yeah, let them go on and on. Not saying
And
it's
if it's-
not important to them, but
Well,
If we get on the road
give
them
with something
information.
that's gonna be, somebody that's really lashing out at you, I think that 3 minutes of saying if they're listening to it's a long period of time, you can't stop them.
well, you may not be able to stop them, but you can comment and say, you know, Tom, you've said that 3 or 4 times now. So repetition for emphasis is not something that we really appreciate. And you don't have to use up all the 3 minutes. If you've run out of stuff to say, you could sit down.
I mean, I think you have a guardrail in place because you have a 15-minute drop dead date for
Yeah.
anybody to
Yeah.
talk ever, so.
Yeah, and if we have a meeting where a lot of people want to talk and we think that 15 minutes is too long, we can,
Too long or too short?
Definitely.
adjust at the beginning of the
too
meeting.
long, if we can, we could say we're gonna, we can go for 15 minutes total,
Mhm.
and each person, in order to get the most people through, keep your comments to 2 minutes. Get at least one more person through. So. These are good questions, and to see if anything comes out that across the boards and committees on the town, if there's a kind of a consistent policy of, that might be something that comes out too.
Can we go with that?
But I will forward the invitation to others if anyone wants to attend.
That would be good.
I'm planning to attend.
Is that being given by Lisa Mead?
Yes.
She's gonna do 2 separate training sessions in the event that multiple members, boards and committees, so you don't have to deal with quorums.
Oh, that's
okay.
helpful.
She hasn't announced the second date yet.
Okay, all right, I will definitely do that, that would be helpful. So, any other comment on that? I think we're
No?
good. So tonight, what we have in front of us is to go through the warrant and take votes to recommend or not recommend each of the articles with a financial implication. So that's the first order of business. And to that end, I have a copy of the warrant that I was making notes on last week, that the select boards, their votes on that as well. I also have last year's Finance Committee appropriations booklet, which is where we typically, underneath each of the articles with the financial implication, is there's typically, there's a line that says select board recommendation and their votes.
Mhm.
There's one for us, Finance Committee recommendation and our votes, and it goes, there's 3 shown. It's yay is the first number, nay is the second number, and abstain is the third number. And then below that is typically a rationale. If we have something that we strongly recommend or unanimously don't recommend, we typically spell that out very clearly. A lot of these, as we go through, we wrote a rationale last year, and most of these rationales on the, stuff like the revolving funds, things like that, the rationales don't change that much year to year. So Tracy and I have already been talking about, a lot of those are pre-populated, but if we feel specifically about any specific article and what we want in there, we can talk about that tonight, and Tracy can help us get that into the booklet, and we'll see that in draft before it goes out. Any questions? All right.
Pretty straightforward.
So, looking at the warrant, Article 1 and 2 have no vote for us. They just are setting forth the terms and receiving reports. Article 3, to see if the town will fix the salaries and compensation of the elected offices. This is no change. There's been no change in stipends, and I believe that town clerk number is
2%
consistent.
increase.
What?
2%.
2% increase over last year, as. So. I would, all those in favor of recommending?
Is this Article 3?
Article 3. All those in favor of recommending?
Aye.
Opposed?
500.
500. Make notes on mine. Article 4 is the resolution support of changing the state flag and seal of Massachusetts. We
Right?
don't, that's not a financial one, so
No comment.
no comment. Article 5 is the operating budget for a total of $23,445,738. Any questions or discussions about this, the total number?
Was there any updated number from education for Triton?
Yes, that's, someone will likely ask that if anyone's read the
Mhm.
budget document. There is a slight modification, and that's due to the fact that after this document came out, Triton revised their numbers.
And it's lower? Okay.
And that happens often.
Yes.
Because, a lot of changes that happen
Excuse
right
me.
up until, town meeting,
Yeah.
things can be amended, so.
Yeah.
So
And just, is the total budget number changed, or just the Triton, just the education portion? Was it, did it?
The total budget was
Was
reduced
affected.
as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna wanna make sure that the numbers that I have in the presentation match,
Yep.
so,
So it's gonna be less than 4.4% increase.
yep.
And it's 4.2. We end up at,
What's that?
we end up at a 4.2% increase. Yep.
And we know that this budget is balanced and does not require a override for our operating budget. There's no,
Correct.
it's all. And we'll have the full budget in the appendix of the
Appropriations.
appropriations. All right. Any other questions? Those in favor of recommending?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 500. Okay. Article 6 is 150,000 going into stabilization. Any discussion or comments? All right, all those in favor of recommending?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None abstained. 500. The next one, Article 7, 200,000 to the OPEB liability, to our other post-employment benefits. So this is as well. I think we had a pretty good overview last week on that and
Yep.
that overall liability. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstaining, 0. It's 500. Article 8 is the 95,000 to the PEG Special Revenue Fund. So basically moving the money. What we've said in the past on this one is this appropriation funds the town's media operations, including wages, equipment, and various other costs associated with cable access programming. And the current balance in this fund is just over 880,000.
Yeah.
In the select board, there were 4 in favor, 1 opposed.
Yeah.
What do media operations cost annually? Ballpark?
Not 95,000, somewhere around there.
They cost around,
So,
how do we end up with an $880,000 balance?
It comes from the fees that the cable company charges the residents that they have to then kick back for us to use.
Right.
Per the terms.
But what does that quote-unquote kickback number look like annually?
So it's declining,
Okay,
but we have, I would say around 160,000 a year, somewhere around there we've been bringing in. But it is, as people are choosing other streaming services, it is declining.
so we're running a ballpark 65K surplus
Yep.
annually.
Yep.
What's the intent for the remaining 880 that's in there?
So initially, when this was established, when we had an active media committee, the plan was, the reason we established it as a special revenue fund versus there's 2 options. You can also have it just become a general fund revenue and it just gets deposited into your general fund to be expended for any legal municipal purpose. At my recommendation, we established the special revenue fund because the media committee at the time wanted to build a studio. We were in the very early phases of the town hall project consideration, and we did get confirmation from the Department of Revenue's legal division that we could use these funds to build the studio. Purchase the equipment, anything associated, but only that percentage that was reflective of that part of the building. So we thought it was a good idea to keep those funds segregated so that they didn't get spent on other issues. Since then, things have changed. I don't know that there's any intention of building a studio at this point in time, so those funds are sitting there. There is an ability to rescind that vote, and those funds would then become part of the general fund, or you can leave them there, but they're restricted in what they can be expended on. Very,
As long as they're in the special revenue account.
right, correct.
And I assume there's still some intent to use part of that for the communication piece of town hall and construction.
It absolutely can be. That's, I mean,
Up for
that's what
discussion.
it was
Yeah.
initially intended for.
All right, thank you.
If there, how would money get voted out, or how would that money be able to be spent? Like, so if there's money in that fund,
Mhm.
who controls?
Town meeting.
Town meeting, so it wouldn't move, it doesn't move out of that.
Doesn't go
It
anywhere
doesn't
without
move.
town meeting
Okay.
approval. And this, what you're seeing here is.
Is that we would do it in that type
mechanism
of thing,
to
was that we would
allow it.
then put it into
Yep.
another fund, okay.
Yep. So you'd be restricted to doing it at an annual or special town meeting.
I'm good.
Any other questions on that?
Not that pertains to this, I mean, this is, we have to move the 95K to fund media operations, so
Yeah.
that is what it is.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Right,
Opposed? Abstaining? All right. Article 9 is to set up the 2 revolving funds for recreation and municipal waterways improvement fund and maintenance fund, otherwise known as the Harbor Master account. And these are, again, they are self-funding from the, from their own receipts and revenues. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No abstain. All right. Article 10 is the ambulance enterprise account, which again was established and to be self-funding. In addition to the numbers here, there is a free cash balance associated with that account of $248,099. And this, I do know that that free cash in the past has been used for purchases that support the ambulance enterprise
Correct.
as well. So it's its own
Self-funding.
self-funding
Yep.
and
Do we see any upcoming purchases, or where do we stand with that whole, we bought an ambulance last year, I believe.
Last year we
Yep.
purchased one. Should
Where are
be-
we at with the second one, or the third one, or the fourth one?
It's in the capital plan, I just don't remember off the top of my head. What's one?
161.
$2025.
2025 to buy an ambulance?
Mhm.
So that's next fiscal year.
And
And they estimated
generally, what are
purchase-
we putting into this account a year in the plus, beyond expenditures?
How much are they putting in?
Yeah.
So if you look at the article, they have some extraordinary and unforeseen money that doesn't necessarily get spent every year. That's only if there's an emergency, so if that's not spent, that goes back into their free cash. And they haven't fully expended their expenditures each year. So I'd have to look back and do an analysis of how much has been added from year to year. But the free cash it sits there until they have an appropriation to.
Right,
Yeah,
but
that-
$200,000 and $300,000 is not gonna replace what they're looking to replace.
No, I
No.
think their estimate on the ambulance is probably 375,000. Yeah. They know that,
So that, it's negative at that point,
right,
come next year.
right.
are they able to finance independently?
Yep.
Okay, so if they're
I-
gonna run in
under
the black
town.
350 for,
Yep.
you're right.
Yeah.
If they're gonna run in the black because they haven't spent 350 on a new ambulance,
Yep.
they're gonna write their own note for 100K and put it against their
That's what
revenues.
they've done in the past with a lot of their fire apparatus. That's what we do. We take 10-year notes and we pay it off over
And there could be a
that time.
grant or something too they can apply for.
They
That
do.
Might help.
They do.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
any other questions on that? All those in favor of recommending? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? No, 500. Article 11, to pay a bill from an outstanding bill from fiscal year 2022 for $6,039.43. Any discussion?
No, come on.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 500. All right, next one is 50,000, Article 12, 50,000 for firearms for the police department. That would be coming from free cash, so. Any questions, discussion?
None here.
That was the maximum, correct? Because they're actually gonna get money for trade-in, so the number, while it's 50, is going to be, should be less than 50.
Yes.
Well, what will happen is the select board has to declare the
Surplus.
weapons surplus, and then we auction them, and that money comes back.
Are they not being traded to the company?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't believe so. We've
How do you sell
found,
used guns as a
Well-
municipality?
it's,
I know that if it's the pistols, the companies will buy those back.
right.
So there is a trade-in value, and they turn around and they sell them overseas.
We have made a lot more money selling at auction than we make trading, everything. Ambulances, cruisers, we were getting $200 to $300 for the old police cruisers. Since we started auctioning them, we're getting $3,500, $4,000. It's,
Yeah.
we're getting substantially
No,
more
I'm just saying,
money.
this the 50,000 is gonna be less than that when it's all said and done.
Right, right.
All those in favor of recommending?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 500. Article 13, 11,000 for solar powered speed signs. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Every town seems to be going that way too.
Oh, yeah.
And from what I hear, they do have a calming influence on the traffic.
It's even nicer when they say thank you too, so.
They only do that in Newbury, they don't do that in Merrimack.
They don't do it in
They
Georgetown
don't say
either.
thank you.
It's like if you go 10 miles under, you have to say, you're so good looking. So Article 14, 13,500 to purchase flashing crosswalk beacon systems. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 500. Article 15, this is a sum of $150,000, year 4 of an 8-year project to complete with the Newbury Elementary School roof, and that would be coming from stabilization.
Yes.
Any discussion or questions?
Not really a question about this, but Marshall, I think we're in
Fourth
year
year.
year four
Yeah,
of the
that's what I
CPC
made down.
plan
Yeah.
for the roof. How much has this thing been percentage-wise increasing annually?
This
for
is the
same-
first increase.
This is the first increase?
Yep. The first 3 were 100,000 each,
Yeah,
and then this one with materials going up,
yeah,
bumped up.
interesting. And that was a 10-year plan?
8-year plan.
8-year
We
plan?
had hoped initially to complete it in 5, but as the prices are going up and they're not able to do as much square footage, probably gonna be 8.
Hope is nice.
That's apple.
Yeah.
All those in favor of recommending?
Aye.
Opposed? 500. Article 16 is a dump truck for $72,645, again, coming from stabilization. Both of the stabilization votes at town meeting will require a 2/3 majority to pass. Any discussion? All those in favor of recommending?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. 500. Article 17 is the transfer of $1 million from free cash to the town hall project account. The free cash number before this just is $3,466,324. And then if this goes through, that will bring the balance in the town hall project account to
$5,089,608.
5 million what?
89,608.
Okay. Discussion on that transfer?
No, I think it's probably the smartest thing we do is to put money aside for future capital needs.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? None, it's 500. And then the biggest appropriation, other than the operating budget, is the 11,775,000. It's the figure here, or to pay the cost of designing, constructing, reconstructing, furnishing, and equipping a town hall, including all payment of cost incidentals related thereto. So it would be by transfer of available funds, borrowing. So questions and discussions on this?
I will go on the record as opposed, at least in its current form. I don't, and maybe somebody can enlighten me a little further than in the last meeting. I don't. The plan as it stands today strikes me as maybe not half-baked, but three-quarter baked.
3/4 baked or 1/4?
1/4 raw. I don't understand why. A couple of things. A town with net 4+ employees, a town whose residency headcount has increased by 1 in the past 20 years, needs a town hall of that size. I failed to see the upside of multiple identical meeting rooms. We're up, I think, 17 points just in the last however many weeks on our estimate, which raises the hair on the back of my neck in general. I step away from things that are experiencing Zimbabwean level inflation rates. I am interested in hearing more about prospective shared workspace, work from home plans. I'm interested in seeing a written estimate on, I take everybody at their word, and these are people who are significantly more experienced in this space than I am. I am not in any way questioning either their integrity or their knowledge. I'd like to see a written estimate on what it costs to retrograde. And that's what I mean by this being half-baked. I think that this, in its current form, goes to town meeting and gets mauled. And I could be attributing my own logic where it doesn't belong. I fully admit that right off the bat. It fits me, and I'm sitting in the crowd, I have a lot of questions, to which I did not receive any answers in our last meeting. I got rebuttals of what kind of town you want to live in. I want to live in a fiscally prudent town.
Yep.
I am not of the school of thought that town halls attract growth. This is Massachusetts. Lexington, Concord, Carlisle, Sherburne, Acton, Boxborough, schools that attract growth. And I am of the mindset that we are not the kind of town to pass 3, 4, 5 overrides in a row. And we have some serious school-related items coming down the pike. And I don't want to create a situation in which schools need to go begging, because we have spent, all of our resources on a really big town hall.
Okay,
So-
let's talk to that, because the only issue that you raise with a lot of substance, there are two, so let's take them in order.
Mhm.
How big is big enough,
Okay.
okay? And that's one I can't answer, okay?
Right.
But it's a good question, and you're looking at 10,000 square feet. How does it map out, and how does it go for what we need?
Mhm.
I don't have that answer. As far as redoing what we have and retrofitting old buildings, if you want a figure for that, it is costly, really costly to get that figure, and it's not going to be a not-to-exceed figure, because in old buildings, and I happen to live in one, you open something up and there is you never know what it's going to be, and it always costs more. And so that part of, I would like to know how much it costs. If you are looking for a definitive answer without pouring a lot of money in, you can't get it. You simply cannot get it. From people I have talked to, from the Municipal Building Committee has talked to people, and always they say, well, maybe we can do it for this, but the number of change orders and overrides coming in can be horrendous. And I've done several buildings of this magnitude, and I'll tell you, for my experience and what we've done, retrofitting a building has been a nightmare every single time. And we ended up, the last one we retrofitted, we ended up tearing it down and building it. Just because we couldn't keep up with getting all of the stuff we needed for power and safety and all of those things into the retrofitted building before we said, you know what, this is not going to make it. And we took it down and built a new building. We're far better off. And there are some other things that I'm going to go, might as well go the whole 9 yards here. Because one of the questions that had come up was, I can't do the area, so somebody else is going to have to do that. The retrofit, yes, that is such an unknown that if you want to get that number, you are going to spend a significant amount of money to get there. Okay? As far as rental is concerned, I'm going to let Tracy talk to that, but I did look up under the Massachusetts laws, and we have to open that up to competitive bidding, and it doesn't have to stay where it is. So
Although
that's
there aren't many other options.
No, there aren't many other options. Now let me talk to cost. Because when people looked at, for some reason, 30 years came in here as, this is not a 30-year building. This is, and I took a sample of buildings in the Commonwealth. And I was telling Tracy, the average of buildings that had, and this is just a sample, but the average is 105 years. In use, 70% of them were still in use. The ones that were not in use had terminated use close to 100 years old. And so if we knock it down considerably and say, you know what, let's look at it at a 60-year building, almost half that period of time. Then we start doing the figures, and we pay off the bond and still have a building that's got 30 plus years to go. it changes the complexion of the finances considerably. I also did some research and went to, there's an attorney's foundation. They deal mostly in commercial real estate. They had been talking about the average for commercial real estate in leases generally had been about 2.15%. It had been stable for years. However, they said coming up with an inflation in the 7% range, those things are going to go out the window. If we can nail a 5% bond, then even over the term of, say, 60 years, we beat renting with an escalator of 2%. We destroy it at 3%. What this group, the attorneys group, says is it's going to be considerably more, and nobody's betting on what it's going to be going forward. Also, looking at a group called ITR, economics group out of Manchester, New Hampshire. And they're also looking at some instabilities coming forward. And so if we can nail this one down, I think we are financially better off if we can get a level run. And so I think those are the things that we really have to look at. Your comment about size, if the Municipal Building Committee would agree with you, or if somebody says, here's why we need this space, that would be something to talk about. I'm not the guy. I just do the finances.
Nope, understood.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. That makes a great deal of sense.
As we're talking to, I was looking up, so according to the Municipal Building Committee's report, the 100-year thing made me think of this because as best they could determine, the building, the structure there was originally built as the town grange and was remodeled to its present state after a fire in 1927 to serve as town hall. So we're coming up pretty close on 100 years on that building. And I think about 15 years ago was around the time that it first was kind of laid out in the master plan that it should be dealt with, because that was as we were going into the years of trailers. So the space that was there wasn't right. And the costs associated, I actually had an exchange, and that was one of the things I was pulling up on my phone here, was that I sent that exact question to the Municipal Building Committee over the weekend to say, can someone give us a number? And again, it will cost us money to get a schematic and build it out and to get to that. So that's one cost of getting a number. The other cost is that it's, even then, as Marshall said, it's not something that we would have a definitive not to exceed. It would probably go. And the other part that I hadn't been aware of was that if we're doing a retro and expansion, knowing that everything has to come up to code, is that the timeline and the horizon and the carrying costs it's going to be at least 3 months more. We have to build in more of a buffer into the timeline. It's a more costly process that in soft costs, Bob was giving of about $120,000 a month, so it would up the project. A 3-month delay would up the project by $360K on top of what we're already doing. So I think the thing that's really hard about this is that the building, as it's situated on that lot, with the clearance, it's either going to need to go drop down and or build up, and the cost of those opening up is where there's a lot of unknowns of what they'd have to do to mitigate water table issues and get the space above. It also wouldn't allow for redesigning where the building sits on the plot of land to make the traffic flow, such as the backing out onto Morgan Ave where the police cruisers used to be. So I just think it is, the municipal building committee, I think, has done at this point in time, given the charge that they have, which was to kind of solve the town hall need, is that the solution that probably would have been the most cost effective was passed at town meeting in 2016? 2016, it passed at town meeting, the override failed at the polls, and that, at that time, that was a $12.5 million project to do a whole public safety complex. In 2016, that was the last time there was a Board of Selectmen's meeting at the old town hall. It was July 16th, and at that agenda, there were 3 items of what they were gonna put forward. And it included a public safety complex, which would have been 20,000 square feet for police, fire, and a town hall project. And that was a 10.8 to 12.8 million, and would have used the entire pieces of land that this police station we're sitting in now, the fire company, and the town hall space. There was also if anyone remembers this, there was the new option, which was a combined town hall and police station on the existing town hall site. Where we are sitting today would have been a parking lot. Then there was a third one, which was a phased facility plan, which was a 10,000 square foot police station on the far lot of Morgan Avenue, formerly owned by Fire Company Protection 2. And at this point in time in 2016, the cost of the building that we are now in was $5 million. And the additional phase to follow 4 to 6 years later would be renovations and renovations to town hall and an addition and renovate some fire station, and this was a estimate cost of another $4 million in 2016. So by the way things have worked was that and over the different years in voting it's become 2 projects to meet the needs. This building, the total expenditure that had been approved at annual town meeting in 2019 was for 8.2. When that came in, that's now been moved into that town hall account. So the need hasn't gone away, and the building wasn't set 10 years ago. It didn't meet the space needs. And I think it's hard to say that that's what's going on. It's also the cost of being in the Kentway space since 2016 is $1.3 million has been spent on that as well, through the rentals.
And just to go on record, I'm not suggesting that I'm saying that a retrofit is the way to go. In fact, I suspect it is not. But what I am saying is that if I'll speak only for myself, if I am to be a steward of capital, I don't want to walk into a meeting, any meeting, in which I'm supposed to be a steward of capital, and say, well, I have this equation, I've got a couple of variables plugged in, I've got a couple that I don't. These are just kind of best guess. My sources on this, trust me. It just doesn't look good. It's not right. And you're 100% correct, but both of you are, about everything. But where you say, we tried this vote failed, this didn't work, we argued about this, we fought tooth and nail about this, that, and the other thing. Of course, I believe that the way to stop this cycle is to go into there with a fully baked equation, and to do something that looks really genuinely like, look, we can't cut anything else out of this. This is what it is. Otherwise, people are gonna be sitting on each other's laps, and there's no room, and this is it. This is it in a nutshell. Yes, the number's up substantially over the, yes, things have increased, yes, inflation's running at 7.25%, all of those things. But this is it. It's not going down, but this is the bare bones, this is what we need, and this is it. And none of this, as proposed, feels that way to me. That is my point.
Okay.
I do not agree with any of the data that has been presented here.
Have you got
My
any
problem
answers
is-
from Bob and any of the questions that were proposed at the session there that?
The questions that we did get answered, and this is the stuff that we had talked about, was basically retrofit and the problems with that. And, you know, as Eric said, you know, we've got a 100-year-old building that was nearly 100 years old.
Right.
It was retrofitted then from a building that was 50 years old already. It had
Understood
a fire.
completely,
So
yeah.
that's,
I'm talking more at the last session that we held with the municipal building committee. There were a lot of things that were uncovered during that meeting that he was going to get responses to. Do we know what any of those responses are at this point before we go to town meeting?
I don't,
They are holding another,
There's an info
There's
session on the
another-
14th.
I mean, it would be nice to know
Yeah,
that
it would
they
be
were
nice to
able
get
to
that.
address a lot of those versus hearing the same thing again.
It looks like
I think it's the 15th.
it's a Saturday the 15th.
yeah, but I'd love to have that before then.
Yeah,
And that's also a holiday weekend,
I'm with
just
you.
saying.
I think we're going in, from my point of view, we're going into this thing with a half-baked idea, and we're not fully given a very clear picture of what the best option is, and all we're doing is saying, we're gonna give $11 million, and then we'll design it afterwards, and I think we need more to take and be forthcoming to the town if this is the best plan to put forward.
I think the project is designed, I know, I've seen documents go by.
And that was
I can
presented,
make sure that you
yeah.
can get those.
yeah.
In terms of final costs, we won't have those until the bids are in.
Yeah,
for
the bid is gonna be the final
Right,
cost.
but we still don't know.
Well, I
What-
think
The possibilities
Frank's
would be, had they
question is,
did a
Germany.
retro, not saying it's the right way to go.
We could do it, it's just you're gonna spend,
We're gonna
you know,
spend
$30,000.
$30,000
If
to
you
get
want.
the
If we're going up
answer.
17 points from meeting to meeting, 30 grand is pocket change, if that's the case. You know, I hate to put it that way, but
Yeah, no, if
I mean,
that's,
if that number comes out that retrofitting does make sense, again, I have no idea if it will, I suspect it won't. But these numbers that we're dealing with today, nothing could be worse than that, honestly.
it's not gonna get better either.
No, I don't think it's gonna get better, I don't believe it will, but I think that, you know, what are we up to now? We gotta be up to $740 a square? $740 a square for really 2 floors of which are actually furnished, and the 3rd floor is mechanicals and storage. So really, there's no, so you're over $1,100 a square, ultimately is how it works out for furnished space. You have got to have your T's crossed and your I's dotted if you're gonna walk into a meeting and say, yeah, this is the kind of money that I need to build a town hall right now. And it doesn't feel that way to me.
What was the total for PD?
8.3.
Yeah,
We got a fire station falling down beside us, that's not gonna be a retrofit, it's gonna be.
No.
The chief,
Yeah, that's-
I wouldn't classify it as falling down. We've done a lot of renovations to the building.
And structural
and chief,
improvements, yeah.
The chief has said that it's satisfactory, so, I mean, there's no plans to do that now. Initially, it was a public safety facility, and it made sense, but the fire, well, it was voted down. I think it failed by 36 votes.
failed by 36 votes at
Yeah.
town meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, no, at the
The
polls.
ballot.
At the polls. It
Passed
passed, it passed a 2/3 majority at
Right.
town meeting.
Yep,
And it failed by 36 votes at the poll
Yep.
for that
yep.
expenditure. So the,
I think that is it Mr. Connors presenting at town meeting, or is it?
Jeff Shaw and Bob.
Jeff Shaw?
Yeah.
Okay. Like with anything, they need to be prepared, they need to have all those questions answered, and they need to speak confidently and with assurance with regard to this. And not have any wishy-washiness to anything, or I'm not really sure, it's around, or it could be, or they need to be very careful with the words that they are using when they are presenting. That is not what our voters want to hear. They want to hear with confidence what it's going to be and what it's going to cost. Are they doing a dry run?
I think the 15th.
So that's to the public though, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yes. And that's
we
since
need to
it's
hear
a,
from them before then.
it's a.
That's what
also-
I'm thinking.
Yeah. In terms of the,
I mean,
Yes,
I
they-
want a new town hall with all my heart. You know, and I've worked in the old structure, I know what it's made of, I did the IT, that infrastructure over there is worthless. It's not handicap compliant, there's so many things about that building that are wrong, never mind the zoning perspective. But if this is what we want, we need to get behind it with the right information.
I think we do, I think one of the questions that was on the table at the last meeting was whether or not there was an option to buy the Kentway building. That is definitively not an option. It's not for sale. And
Get a letter from Mr. Kelly stating that?
Email.
Great.
And then the other part, and Tracy can help me with this part, is that the idea that the last time we've been in a lease, this is our second 3-year lease, correct?
This is our,
2016, so 19.
yeah.
So we're going on our
Third.
third round.
It'll be our third round when this one expires at the end. And at that point, and in order to do that many, we have to do competitive bid, correct?
Yeah, last time we petitioned the Office of the Inspector General asking if they would consider a unique acquisition because of the fact that we had moved here temporarily in the hopes of getting a new town hall built. And we had incurred significant costs to move and to do the IT and everything else in the facility that we're currently in. And we asked if they would grant us that waiver and allow us to stay there. Again, understanding that the intention was that we would build a new town hall.
Temporary, yeah.
At some point, I don't know when, maybe never, you know, they could say to us, no, you need to go out to competitive bidding. At which point, you know, I can't remember the terms of the original one, but you could say, okay, within a 25-mile radius, give us the most competitive pricing, you do the, you know, the IT, you know, we could make it much more specific, understanding what it takes to get the operation functional. We'd certainly fine tune it, but obviously you want to get the best pricing, and I know there's a lot of vacant space out there, so, but it may mean, you know, Newbury Town Hall and Newbury Court.
That's,
And we did, I think Frank, you had mentioned working from home. We're not doing remote work. I haven't found a single town hall that is. As a public service agency, I can't imagine people coming to town hall and not having people be there to serve.
No, I don't mean entirely remote.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're saying that of the entirety of your head count,
Yep.
none of those jobs can be moved to remote work, then, okay. But if you say, well, all right, I mean, we're only net +4 head count over when we were in last time in a 4,700 square foot building, which
Mhm.
was short on records,
Mhm.
or +4.
Mhm.
Uh,
And
You
we
know.
had 5 office trailers around the town hall, don't
Yeah.
forget that.
No,
So
no,
we
I
did
believe you,
fit
I'm not,
into
I'm
the
I'm
town
not
hall
suggesting that the
before.
old
Yeah.
system, I'm saying that, again, I don't wanna repeat, but, you
Yeah,
know,
we,
10,000 square foot building with multiple meeting rooms, that have meetings simultaneously, that the public's invited to,
Yep.
like, no, I just don't, at
Yeah, I didn't-
730 plus a square foot, no, it just doesn't make sense to me. But that's, but as far as work from home, I can't speak to, certainly there's people that have to touch physical documents and things like that, they can't work from home.
Well, I can defend
I
that
don't know
too. I
what
mean,
percentage of-
working in the position that I'm working in, I talk to municipalities and schools all the time,
Yeah.
and they are going back in office and they have absolutely no plans
Yeah.
to change that. Yes, they are doing some more online options,
right.
but it's not reducing the staff in order to serve the public.
And he did, Bob did ask us to assist him in creating a bullpen type of infrastructure, if you will,
Mhm.
so that people who are working part-time are sharing spaces and
Right.
things like that. So we did a lot of that type of work,
Yeah.
but not consideration for working from home. Yeah.
Well, I think this does raise the question and begs the question. Here's a, beautiful town hall, we saw it. Why is it that big? What
Brought us
are
there.
its uses that say this is the right size for this town hall? You answer that question, and you take a lot of the steam out of any opposition. And if we can get behind that question, the money part, there's no question. This is the way to go. If it is the right size and people look at this building and says, too big, and then we use up all the space. So that is a really critical point that has to be outlined and defended rigorously. And whatever the size is, then we can do the economics. We can show that for same size building, whether if a retrofit, somebody has to basically say, yeah, you're getting a pig in a poke and we don't know what it is, and it could be the same, it could be a whole lot more. We can't tell you. Now, you want to vote for that? I would not go up in front of the town meeting and say, here's the new town hall, we're going to retrofit that. We have no idea what it's going to cost. Or it's going to cost about that, but it could be more. I want to go with a number, and by the same token, I want to go on a number with an appropriate sized building that says this is why we have this building this large. And you brought up good questions. Why do we have more than one conference room or multiple conference rooms? And if someone says, here's why.
Well, part of the here's why on that is we can't attract board members to volunteer
Yeah,
for our boards. Well,
yeah.
frankly, part of that is the fact that we don't really have meeting rooms to do it, and the space is awful. So that's part of the attraction. It's part of the attraction to hiring employees, just like it was for the Newbury Police Department. They're
Mhm.
able to attract more employees because it's a nicer space. This is where I work. No,
Yep.
I work by Freedom Fertility. You know where that is? Right? So, I mean, it's the big picture. Maybe if they slice and dice the square footage in different ways, how much of that square footage is utility space? How much of that square footage is meeting room? How much of that square footage is bathrooms? How much is storage? How
Always.
much is all of that? And just kind of slice it that way, and it might resonate. I don't know, but it might make the numbers more sensible to them, to everybody.
Mhm.
And I think the thing that's on my mind is the cost estimate as it stands, it feels, I want to be sure that we aren't providing a number thinking that that's going to be enough and knowing that it's not enough, or having a sense that it's not. I think that the fact that the bid amount was so different for this building after we had voted a number, and then everyone was like, well, you have to get it for that number, and the answer was you can't get what you need to meet the requirements for the budget, and we had to go back. I think that was really hard, and I think that that's something that's a very hard thing to justify. I do think that based on all of the numbers I've seen here and for the many of years that I've seen this, is that the idea of investing in a building is the right way forward. We should not be renting and subjecting ourselves to taking money out of the operating budget every year and paying it towards rent, especially when we have a plot of land that can be built upon to meet the needs and also meet the site that had been picked there. The reason that back in 2013, there was a meeting, there were a number of sites looked at, the synergies of having as many of the town offices and places together, the police station being near the town hall, being in this one section of the center of Newbury by the Upper Green. I believe we have the right location. I believe it's the right plan to go with a building that is built and operated by the town, is ultimately the way to save us money. Frank, I really appreciate your thoughts on the square footage, and is this price tag the right for us? And maybe this is not going to pass at town meeting or at the polls, or one or the other, because it has to pass at both to make it through this time. It has to pass with a 2/3 majority at town meeting, and it has to pass by a majority at the polls in order for this project to go forward. I think that if we can get a number that someone can speak to at town meeting, it would be helpful. But I'm so in favor of having a solution that meets the long-term pieces.
Yeah, we're on the same camp on that.
I just
Absolutely.
don't want to go down the path of let's keep renting.
No, it's the solution
Like
that makes
that's-
sense, but it's
Providing all the information so you do get the positive vote.
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to,
The
you have
element-
to
The elements of
present
the solution
irrefutable evidence.
have to be
that this
crystal
is-
clear.
Yes,
If it's not,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get the 2/3.
no. As long as somebody can come up with a question from that crowd that you cannot answer, I would say you're doomed. Because anybody who was on the fence, and let's be honest, most people show up to town meeting, they're not on the fence about anything. They
They already
come in and
know.
loaded for bear one way or the other, and that's fine.
Mhm.
But in theory, there is an on the fence voter, or at least you will see those people at the polls,
Yep.
eventually. And if you can't answer questions, you've lost. And I think in this case, if you can't show that you're providing the absolute best value for their tax dollars, I also believe you've lost. I don't think that people care about aesthetics the same way that maybe some of us, or some people from building community, or what have you, the people in the industry care about aesthetics. I think people think about utilitarian applications of tax dollars when it comes to town halls. And the presentation didn't, utilitarian is not a word that would be used to describe the presentation. a really nice building. And I live around the corner, I'll benefit from it, you know, probably. Drive in and, oh, look at this beautiful town hall, there's a pond, there's a baseball field. So, I mean, if anybody could be swayed that way, it's me, but it just doesn't, you know, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of taxpayers sitting down that crowd. And I don't see it. I don't see it. It's not something that I, you know, just coming in, if the entirety of my information is coming from that evening and I come up with a question you can't answer, I'm voting no. So that's my mindset. But I completely agree with you, 100%. Of course it's the right solution.
We need to,
You need to
yeah.
build a building that is your own building and that you own and you maintain. No question.
So there are two significant areas that we look at. Is this the right building? Is the right sizing for this building? And two, new versus retrofit. Retrofit.
Yeah.
Is there something I'm missing?
No, I don't think so. I do think it boils down to that.
Tom, what do you think?
I agree.
Okay. So those are things that we need to get answers to. And some definitive answers before we go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because the money part makes sense. Okay? Purchasing over there we can't do, continuing to rent doesn't make economic sense, period. We can show that definitively, that's not a question. And so I think it behooves us to get with the municipal building committee and say, okay, you need to answer these two questions for us. And they have to be bulletproof. Something we're missing?
And I think it needs to be bulletproof for the 15th, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think
As presented to me, as this is presented right now, this is presented to fail. Because you need that many people to vote for it, and there's gonna be opposition that people are gonna buy into because of unanswered questions.
Mhm. Yeah, we have to have those.
And the last thing we wanna have happen is to take me down the road and kick this can a little bit farther, to add more expense to it, but that's where it's headed for.
it's, yeah. Would this group, if we extended an invitation to municipal building committee to join us, would the members of the board here tonight be in favor of tabling a vote on our recommendation pending more information, and be willing to meet to discuss,
Well, I think,
or what do we?
okay. To recommend this, we've got to have, for our group to be thoroughly convinced that this is right, we have to answer those two questions.
Right.
The municipal building committee would be tasked to answer those two questions. I have no problem tabling this and coming up with a meeting, and maybe a discussion meeting with municipal building committee. I don't know if that would be a public meeting, although it might be.
If we're all meeting, it would have to be, wouldn't it?
Yep, it would have to be. And so we would have to schedule that, and we've got, you know, our 48-hour notice.
Yeah.
And I think we can call,
Something before the 15th, right, between.
I can call them right now.
Honestly, it's completely up to you guys if you want to do it. I mean, if you're concerned about a showing of solidarity.
I think you brought up some things that need to be answered before this group could get behind it 100%.
Okay.
And if
Yeah.
this group doesn't get it behind it 100%, it's doomed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
And
That's a good point.
in principle, we know that this is the way we want to go, but we want to do it with those questions definitively answered.
Yes.
So that when, as Tom says, if somebody asks a question that we don't have an answer to, a good answer to, solid answer to, then we're going down.
Yep. Yep.
So I think that you guys have made the point really well, and I would say that we need to get a meeting with the municipal building committee and ask them some hard questions and really push them for answers.
Should we?
We'll do whatever is needed to proceed, wherever you guys want to work it.
Should we see if we can aim for, I don't know what the town meeting schedule looks like, but I'm sure we can find a location.
Yeah, we have one right here.
We have one here. Yes, this location. Should we ask and see if they're available on,
Well, the first we can post is tomorrow morning.
it's tomorrow morning, which would put us to Friday.
Correct.
Who's the select board member rep for the committee? Is that Dana?
Dana,
He should really be here too.
Okay.
Well, he's on the fence, right?
he
Didn't
abstained.
He
Yep.
abstained.
He
so-
abstained, which is,
Not helpful.
as someone who was on the committee who put forth this and then abstained from recommending, is not, I'm not sure what that leadership message is. Or if it was intended to be one
I
at all.
don't know well all the personalities involved, but from what has transpired here, and from what I can glean in terms of information, there is a solution here. I don't doubt that. Some changes, some blanks need to be filled in, and perhaps some changes made. There is no question that there is the opportunity for solidarity, and that is that's going to, once that is reached, that's going to create a very good presentation on behalf of the town to the voters, to where they say, all right, well, you know what, they worked through this is the best we can do, and we got to stop kicking this can down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And the only sane fiscal move is to do this. And as it is today, I do not believe fits those criteria. That's all.
So do we want to entertain a,
Well, we haven't voted on this.
we haven't voted, so we're not,
So
we
we
can
don't have
just,
to table it.
we don't have to table it, we
It's on
just,
the agenda, but we can just leave it undone
yes.
and
And the last.
convene a meeting for,
For,
well, we could try for Friday.
we could try for Friday.
Do we have availability on Friday?
Friday night?
I have availability anytime on Friday. How about you, Tom?
I wouldn't go late into the evening on Friday night.
Is anyone not able to Zoom in on Friday morning? Can we Zoom? This is not an official proceeding for anything. It's gonna be some flexibility with Zoom, right?
We still have the governors, we do still have the emergency order,
Yep.
so we
Yep.
could
So
do
we can
that.
Zoom.
We could Zoom, and I am very flexible about Zooming. I just want to make sure we have 48 hours from
Posting in the morning?
posting in the morning.
Oh, okay. That might be an idea. I've got a hard stop by 11:45, but I can do anytime Friday morning.
Okay. What do you, Susan?
I left my phone at home. my schedule on it?
Unthinkable.
The
I
bigger
know.
question is the building committee gonna be available to
That's,
do this?
that's the piece that,
Hanging question.
Why don't we tentatively set one for Friday, if everybody's available Friday morning, and then if they say, well, we can't be ready by then,
we reschedule.
reschedule.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We look for a time, okay.
But I think I have flexibility on Friday, so if I have something, I should be able to move it.
Okay.
I'm gonna say between
I'm gonna start drinking some noon, so.
9 AM and 12 PM.
Okay.
I'm just putting a note out to Bob right now. So I think that was a very helpful discussion, and I thank everybody for raising it and being able, I also am very glad that we were able to do this here and not in the meeting last week. That was one of the things I wanted to make sure we were able to sit and talk amongst ourselves
Yes.
as a group. I believe Article 19
Zoning.
does have, Article 19 actually is around an additional real estate exemption
Oh, for tax.
for veterans. So that does have a financial implication.
I believe it's, if we look at it really hard, it's de minimis.
It's, I think the actual amount ends up
Estimated to be about another 50,000.
About 50K.
50K a year, which,
It's not for us to vote on, and I realize this is so far out of anybody in this town's purview, but, I mean, this is, sure, yes, we should vote for this, but this is nuts the way they're going about it. I mean,
they're not gonna,
these regular dollar amounts, when you're talking about percent, they should be conducted in percentage, otherwise you're just back to the table
Yep.
every single time
Mhm.
you do this. But sure, that this is it's a Band-Aid proposal for
Mhm.
something.
all those in favor of 19?
All right?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 20 is not a financial implication to the town. And neither is 21 will have a minimal financial impact.
Madam Chair, what language did you want to put in there? You could discuss alternative language.
That one, just that we didn't take a vote, that it's
No
not,
vote.
no vote, not a. Yeah, neither of these have an impact on the town. The aggregate load doesn't do anything to our bills on the town, and taxpayers can enter into it if they want to, but we also don't make any recommendation whether or not they should. So, staying away from the electric power piece, because that's
Shocking.
shocking, exactly. Who needs ChatGPT to come up with good puns? You can do. So those are all of the items there, I think.
Do you, so certain members of the select board are tasked with making the motions on the articles. Does the FinCom want certain members to respond to certain articles, or do you, I know you've done that in the past.
Generally, we parse them out when we get there.
Do you need them for the moderator script? No?
I mean, I'll put, if you have it, I'll put it in there, but if you prefer to do it at the meeting, that's fine too.
I would say knowing that we are going to reconvene before, because I think that part of the presentation is gonna be, like, the town hall slides right now are empty. They have no content because I did not know how we would vote tonight, so I didn't want to predetermine that. The others, I felt confident, so they're pre-populated. Knowing we're gonna meet again, I'd love to have people have suggested edits to the presentation. The talk track is in the bottom. That's kind of what I'm gonna voice over. And if there are certain ones that you're willing to, if someone asks a question about the, say let's,
Well, the ones that went through the capital planning
Planning.
committee, Tom and I should take those.
yep. So those are,
And they're pretty straightforward.
they're pretty straightforward. The,
I mean, that's the
yep,
roof for Newbury Elementary, it's
It's on the
the
truck.
new truck, and it's the weapons for the police.
weapons, the signs.
And the signs, yeah.
Yeah, I think the signs and those will actually probably speak for themselves, but we can do that as well.
Well, that one, we're gonna have the chief there
Yep,
as well. to
She
speak
will.
to
to speak
signs.
to that as well, yeah. Okay. Is there any other? Looking back at my. So I think we have gone through our agenda. We will, next meeting, we are aiming to be held on Friday, April 7th,
Mhm.
between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. That's what we're hoping to get at least a representative from Municipal Building Committee or two for that to answer these questions. And at that time, I'll make the agenda that will be to have a recommendation on Article 18 and any edits to the presentation.
Okay.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.